Recording in progress.
Good morning, Sanbonani. Igama ngubongiwe Gambu, and I just wanted to ask that we have a little bit more patience. I will be the facilitator today, honored to be part of this important and historic moment, but to also ask that we allow a couple of more minutes while the Chief Justice makes her way in. In the meantime, please enjoy the carefully curated music that we have prepared for you. Chief Justice, we had prepared you a song. Unfortunately, you arrived before we could play you that song. We have carefully curated a playlist to make sure that the guest experience is as beautiful as the project that we are celebrating today. A warm welcome and good morning. A warm welcome to all the justices, but also our Deputy Minister, who is a huge support to us. The last time I saw him was just on Saturday on Women's Day, and it is great to have you again, Deputy Minister. To all the justices, we appreciate your presence here. We understand that you are extremely busy, but your presence here gives us the hope that we need as the team that has put together this event. For my side, it is truly an honor to stand here before you, and to those that did not hear or were not here when I said it, igama ngubongiwe Gambu, and I am the Director for Media Liaison in the private office of the Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa. It is indeed a title that I take very seriously, Chief Justice. Having acknowledged all the guests, including our colleagues in the legal fraternity, and also a special acknowledgement to Advocate Maga. Thank you always for supporting the work of the Office of the Chief Justice. I call upon the stage our Deputy Chief Justice, brand new from the box. Deputy Chief Justice Dunstan Mlambo, please join us. And a warm welcome, please.
Good morning. Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa, Justice Mandisa Muriel Maya, Justices of the Constitutional Court that are here today, Deputy Minister of the Department of Justice, and is it Constitutional Development or Correctional Services? I can never get it right. Constitution Development. Thank you. Justices of the SCA, Supreme Court of Appeal. Thank you. And Dr. G. Pomolimo Mushu, the Executive Director or what, CEO of SAJEI. My colleagues from the High Court in Johannesburg, I see they sneaked into this event. They said they want to believe if it's true that they've lost their JP. That's Acting Judge President Lidwaba, Deputy Judge President Sutherland. Let me also acknowledge, I saw Mr. Mvundlela, the President of the Black Lawyers Association. I also saw Advocate Mahaga. And I want to acknowledge everyone else here. I see the Chief Magistrate of Mpumalanga. She's here sitting quietly in the corner. I want to acknowledge all of you. When I asked if there's a list where all the protocols are set out, they said, Amewana Icha. The CJ has that list. So I want to ride on those protocols that the CJ will mention. Dr. G and to the SAJEI Council, thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak. I was told I've got 5 minutes. I hope I will live up to that. You know, in judicial circles, the most common refrain is how does the judiciary project and position itself regarding topical societal debate? This is relevant because the decades-old saying that the judiciary speaks through its judgments is under strain. So this book launched today provides an opportunity for reflection regarding an option that should be promoted in assisting the judiciary to speak to society, not only through its judgments, but through writings as well. I'm not going to speak about speaking in public platforms because that's another option. But today we are launching a book and I'm focusing on that. As South Africa continues to move slowly in addressing inequality and poverty, the judiciary has found itself having to respond more definitively about its role as a branch of government in confronting our societal challenges. In the context of the persistent lack of diversity in the legal profession and shortcomings relating to access to justice for the public, the need for research and writings which are rooted in our contextual past and present reality and which imbues our constitutional aspirations is crucial. The judiciary plays a central role in fostering constitutional supremacy and the rule of law by ensuring that all actions of the state are consistent with the dictates of the Constitution, not only the state, ordinary members of the public as well. The essence of constitutionalism, therefore, is to protect the interest of society by limiting the power of the state through the law. DM, I'm sure you agree with it. In contexts like South Africa, where constitutional supremacy is tied to social justice and transformation, the judiciary plays a proactive role in shaping a legal culture that advances equality and access to justice. As we progressively mature as a constitutional democracy, or judiciary, that is, we are confronted by contexts that continuously challenge us for responses to either accusations that the judiciary serves only the rich and able, or that the Constitution remains a dream to a large segment of our society. The writings contained in the book we are launching today are a powerful indication that we must use and find other available options as the judiciary to provide the required responses to the questions I've mentioned. In a country shaped by deep socio-economic divisions, the Constitution must be interpreted not only as a legal instrument, but as a transformative charter aimed at accountability and transformation, and judges play a critical role in safeguarding this constitutional promise. This requires not only jurisprudence that is contextually aware, but other means of expression by members of the judiciary, which are sensitive to historical injustices and promote the priority of societal transformation. I therefore congratulate my colleagues whose writings were identified by SAJEI, unfortunately mine was jettisoned, to compile the book we are launching today. These cases or these writings in the main reflect on different aspects that are prevalent in our midst by judges. Going forward, I hope SAJEI will broaden its scope and educate some of us how to write to make sure that our writings find their ways in books of this nature, and that these books provide a source of information to the public that continues to question our legitimacy as a judiciary. So I therefore congratulate all involved in this project, especially the editor-in-chief. I didn't know that judges can also hold titles like that, but she has done a good job at it, as well as my colleagues who've written. And thank you very much for allowing me these few moments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief Justice Mlambo. And having acknowledged the presence of the executive through the Deputy Minister, the editor-in-chief and I, supported fully by Justice Chikri, we decided, using the powers vested in us as women during Women's Month, that the Deputy Minister will offer words of support and some reflections. Please welcome our Deputy Minister, Mr. Andries Nel.
Program Director, thank you very much. It's an honor to be curated by you. Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice, distinguished members of the judiciary, and in particular Justice Dambuza, the managing editor of this important work, the esteemed, successful authors and contributors, colleagues, guests, and friends. It is indeed a great honor to join you this morning for the launch of essays in celebration of the 10th anniversary of SAJEI. I hate using that term, it's an honor, in a loose sort of way, and generally I avoid it. But indeed, this is an honor because I do recall very vividly the beginning days of SAJEI, and they weren't easy days. There were some very, very difficult issues relating to the principalship, to the issue of the relationship between the executive and the judiciary. But we overcame those matters. I had the privilege of serving on the council, then led by the then Chief Justice, Mogoeng. And I think it is indeed an honor to revisit SAJEI in a very different context, where resulting from discussions between the executive and the judiciary, the president recently, I think, has outlined a very clear commitment on the part of the executive to move towards full institutional independence of the judiciary and a single judiciary. And I think in that context, the work of SAJEI is extremely important. The volume that we're here that is being launched here today marks not only a decade of SAJEI's dedicated service, but also the enduring commitment of our judiciary to continuous learning, reflection, and excellence. When SAJEI commenced operations in November of 2011, it was with a vision to ensure that judicial officers have the skills, knowledge, ethical grounding to serve our people in a constitutional democracy. Over the past decade, SAJEI has grown into a cornerstone of judicial development, offering training that is rigorous, relevant, and responsive to the changing demands of justice. The essays in this book reflect the breadth of the judiciary's work and its engagement with issues at the heart of our legal system. From the separation of powers to administrative law, from cybercrime to environmental justice, from judgment writing to judicial wellness and ethics. These are not abstract topics. They're practical, lived realities that shape the quality of justice experienced by our people every day. We wish to acknowledge Justice Dambuza for her sterling work in guiding this project to completion, as well as each of the contributing authors. Your willingness to share your expertise ensures that this book will serve as a valuable resource for years to come. The production of this book was not without challenges, yet the perseverance of the authors, the support of SAJEI and Juta have brought us to this happy moment. This reflects the resilience of the judicial community, a resilience we also celebrate in SAJEI's continued delivery of training, even in the face of disruption and change. This book is both a milestone and a beginning. It's a memoir of a decade's achievement and a call to action for the future. We're encouraged to hear that SAJEI plans to build on this momentum with further volumes, expanding the record of our jurisprudential and institutional development. On behalf of the Minister and the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, we extend heartfelt congratulations to SAJEI, to the authors, and to everyone who played a part in making this publication possible. May this book inspire deeper reflection, deeper innovation in judicial education, and renewed dedication to the ideals of our Constitution. Let us continue together to ensure that our judiciary remains a beacon of independence, integrity, and service to the people of our country. We thank you.
Sibonga kakhulu, DM. Your support is not just in words, but in action, and we see it. We acknowledge it. You look at this beautiful cover and you do not get to see the journey, the sleepless nights, the backs and forth, the commitment, the sheer determination. Some of those were hurdles, speed bumps, off-ramps, potholes, but all leading to this one historic moment. Behind all of it is a team that said, yes, we will see it to fruition. And at the heart of it is our Justice Dambuza, who is also our editor-in-chief. Please put that in your CV. It is my great honor and privilege to welcome the heart of this project. Justice Dambuza, please may we all give her a warm welcome.
Good morning, Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice. Colleagues, all of you, friends and distinguished guests. It has been a very, very long road indeed. I think one of the biggest forms of transformation that we should acknowledge, excuse me, is to getting judges to accept the value of judicial education in their work and continuing judicial education at that. When we started in the judiciary, the growing attitude was that if you don't know everything, you're not fit enough to be a judge. So for us now to reach a stage where we can say all or almost all the judges of this jurisdiction are very sold to judicial education and fully support the Judicial Education Institute that was set up for that purpose is a real mean fit. So in this country, SAJEI has been the engine room for judicial education. It started implementing training programs in earnest for judges in 2011, as the Deputy Minister has said. For 10 years, until 2011, it played this crucial role of ensuring that South African judges are well equipped to uphold the rule of law, to administer justice fairly, and to contribute to a transformed and effective judiciary. It was important, therefore, that we mark this 10-year anniversary of SAJEI one way or the other. And Dr. Mushweu, Dr. G, came up with this genius idea that SAJEI educators, those who facilitate, should donate a piece of writing on a topic or a subject that had occupied the attention of judges in the country in the previous 10 years. We started this project, I think it was 2019, in anticipation of 2021, and we thought we had started well ahead of time because the 10-year anniversary was going to be in 2021. And then we started with more than double the number of authors that we ended up with today. As you will see in the program, we now have 7 authors who finished, who ran the race until the finish line. I mean, DCJ, I was thinking now when you're talking that you were really one of our authors. What happened? He was one of our authors, and his topic still stands unexplored on this platform. So that will be continued. And we had many others, colleagues, that could not finish the race because of work pressures. It has been a road filled with learning for, I think, Dr. G and me especially. I think I learned new skills in trying to urge and motivate and cajole colleagues to finish their chapters. And there would be, first of all, COVID set in 2020 actually, after we started in 2021. So there was that long period of lull. I think both Dr. G and I didn't know what to do now when the situation had changed. But we have had, we made progress thereafter. Well, of course, in fits and starts and stops. Because this was my first experience in this role, I attached myself to the former DCJ, despite his busy schedule, so that we could do this together. But with time, he asked that we excuse him. And I kept thinking to myself, if other people can, get themselves excused, why can't I? Because I did feel the pressure. So was the experience with Dennis after that, Dennis Davies, because I said, please, you've written books. I think you can help me here because I don't want to do things that are undone in the publishing sphere. We tried to do it, but also he was as busy as Dennis is always. So I eventually gave up and thought, okay, let me do this by myself. As I say, I have learned a lot. I think at the end of the day, this book does stand as testament to our determination as judges and magistrates even to ensure that judicial training and education is directed by judges. As they say, education for judges by judges. So in all, I thank the authors who persevered, who never got tired of me putting in an email maybe after 3 months and trying to get them to attend to peer reviewers' notes. I also thank the peer reviewers. Each chapter was peer reviewed by 2 peer reviewers, and they were really true to form. They were really true to the project. But it meant then that the authors had to put in more work in dealing with those comments. Some didn't want to. They would say, "What? Who is this? Does he know what they're talking about?" So I said, "Okay, let's see which ones we can take and which ones we will, try to strike find a middle ground." So, but all in all, the aim was to build a deeper connection amongst judges with the work that we churn out as our judgments, to engage with that work on a different platform. And there's one of my peer reviewers is Justice Mhlanhla. I won't tell you which chapter she reviewed because Justice Majid already threatened to take her to task. So she is representing all the peer reviewers. Any author who's not happy can pass on the complaint to her. So I hope we have achieved our purpose to put SAJEI at front and center in the work of the judges or judicial officers, and also to engender a deeper engagement between judges and their work, as I have said. Thank you, Dr. G, for not giving up. And Hilda as well. I don't know whether Hilda is here. Hilda's from Juta. There you are, Hilda. Thank you very much. Now, when Hilda came onto the scene, then I had to pull up my boots because I think Dr. G, I can bully sometimes. But Hilda persevered, and she would not let go. She would write long letters, and she tried to, put all the chapters in a way that they could be easy follow-ups. We also was the other Juta lady that we worked with? Frances. We lost, sadly, Frances along the way. And I hope this book also represents her contribution. Colleagues and friends, I think that is all in introducing this book and the work of SAJEI to you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Bongi.
Enkosi kakhulu, Justice Dambuza. My first introduction to Juta, funny enough, was when I worked for the National Credit Regulator and having had to read up on the National Credit Act. And you do not get to appreciate the institutions and organizations behind the publishing of acts, of legislation, of books. And it was quite a surprise and a pleasant one to find out that Juta had also been involved in this one. It is a niche area of work, and the quality of this book is testament to just how seriously Juta takes its role in the judiciary and in legislation drafting. With those words, may I ask if he is here? Mr. Bierwinkel, Mr. E. Bierwinkel, representing Juta, and he is the Chief of Content and Product, to please join us and share with us a few words. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for those kind words. Don't worry, it's a big tablet, but it's not a lot of speeches. So don't be concerned about that. Thank you. Sorry, I just need to find it here. Of course, technology will desert you at the time when you need it. Just give me a minute, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to. Looks like I have to restart this thing because it doesn't give me what I want. I think if I was a comedian, I would tell a joke in the meantime, but did I? It's like the saying, you're a poet and you don't know it. Okay, I think we're getting there now. There we go. When I meant here we go, I meant it's starting up. I do sincerely apologize for this. It's a little bit embarrassing. I'm going to have to give this tablet back to the office. It deserted me when I needed it most. We are there. We have liftoff. So it's still good morning. So I want to say a very good morning to everybody, to the Honourable Chief Justice, Honourable Deputy Chief Justice, and honourable judges that are present. Also, Dr. G, the CEO of SAJEI, and Justice Mandusa, the managing editor. Thank you for all that. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So I've already taken up more of my time, so I will be very quick. On behalf of Juta, I would like to congratulate SAJEI on the celebration of its 10-year anniversary. This is a remarkable achievement and significant milestone in the history of SAJEI. And it's a contribution to the judicial education, not only in South Africa, but on the African continent. Juta, with its long history in law publishing since 1853, and no, I wasn't there when it started, although it looked like it, and deep roots in South Africa, and being an African publisher, is proud to have walked part of this journey with you as your publishing partner. It was a privilege to collaborate with you in publishing the work that we are launching today, essays in celebration of the 10th anniversary of the South African Judicial Education Institute. This work makes a valuable contribution to the body of knowledge in this area of law and is a welcome addition to the library of judicial officers. We also want to take this opportunity to congratulate the contributors to this work, the authors, for their insightful and thought-provoking essays, of which we will hear more during the proceedings. I agree with Chief Justice Maya where she indicates in her foreword to the book that it will trigger further discourse and contribute to the growth of research and publication, especially by judicial officers. Naturally, as a law publisher and publisher of the iconic South African Law Reports, the chapter on judgment writing by Justice Makgoka drew my attention. It reminded me of an article that I read not too long ago about the use of AI in judgment writing, more particularly generative AI. The author of that article was commenting on the call by some for AI to be used in judgment writing. And the writer of that article made the point in reference to fake citations that when a lawyer misuses AI, those who appear in court in front of judges, they can be sanctioned and the offending pleadings can be dealt with. It's serious, but it can be confined to that case. However, when a judge gets it wrong, it goes further. The judge's ruling becomes law, sets precedent, and potentially could affect future cases. The author argues further that if people start believing that judicial opinions are filled with fake law or written by machines, the justice system not only runs the risk of losing credibility, but also legitimacy. We are reminded by Justice Makgoka's chapter that judges are not editors of machines' outputs. They reason through the facts, apply the law, and take full responsibility for every word written. As we all know, justice is not simply about reaching the right answer. It's about how we reach that answer. This is where well-crafted judgment, as discussed by Justice Makgoka, is very important. With AI, we may encounter what is referred to as the black box phenomenon. This happens whether we are not able to see how the AI came to its answer and the reasons for the answer. This can create challenges in the justice system. AI can assist with grammar, editing, formatting, etc., but it should not be solely relied upon when furnishing the reasons. In our author agreements, we are now including clauses that makes provision for what is known as AI-assisted use. However, and that's the formatting, grammar checking, things like that. However, generative AI use that creates new content is still a challenge. The author of that particular article I was referring to earlier concludes by stating that people who come to court deserves to know that their case was decided by a human being who did the hard work. That's the promise of justice, and we can't let that promise be undermined by the illusion of efficiency. Courts are not startups. The work of the courts is not to move fast and break things. That's tech. Hence, while AI holds much promise and it has certain benefits, it should be approached with caution, proper training, and ethical use and implementation. Based on what I've touched on now in AI, one can appreciate the implication of the use of AI from Justice Majid's chapter, where he writes about the rule of law, amongst others, through to the humanness of judges by Justice Musi, as well as all the other chapters written by Justice Plasket, Musi, Sutherland, and of course Dr. G and Mr. Wabunoa. Justice Rowland's chapter dealing with ethical judges resonates well with current debates around the ethical use of AI and governance issues. However, I think this is where I will leave it for now. After all, you didn't come here to listen to my musings about AI and the courts, etc. I'm sure there are people in this room far cleverer than me that will happily and very gallantly wrestle with these challenges. So, in conclusion, I would like to thank the staff of SAJEI, who has worked with Juta on this project. Justice Dambuza, the managing editor, thank you, especially for your work in facilitating the peer review process, of which you've heard now. Dr. G, a true driving force that will leave no stone unturned to get the job done. I've learned that. You can expect a message at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning if there are certain outputs that hasn't been performed or delivered on. So thank you for your commitment and making the project a success. And of course, we've heard of the people that's been involved with the project, Hilda from Juta, and I know everybody else from SAJEI who's been involved. But I want to just mention there were two beautiful human beings whom we've had the privilege to work with on this project. Aku Ntanjana of SAJEI and Francis Ngubeni of Juta, who both sadly, as we've heard, passed away this year. Both were passionate about this project and will be missed, but their spirits live on through this work. We thank them for allowing us to walk part of their life journey with them. And finally, we value our relationship with SAJEI and wish you well on the next chapter of your journey. We look forward to strengthening our relationship with more projects of this nature that will not only contribute to the development of the law and judicial training, but to our society and the African continent. Thank you.
May I please have my program? I was panicking, thinking, hey, Bo, what happened? Mr. Bierwinkel, sibonga kakhulu. When I first got to meet her, I think it took me a couple of days to grasp what had happened. But I'm going to allow our Deputy Chief Justice, brand spanking new Deputy Chief Justice, to please give us the honor of introducing our Chief Justice. Ngiyabonga.
Chief Justice, there is evidence. I submitted an article. I have the email correspondence. In case that's being disputed here. But there is hope for me that I'll make it in the next book because I wrote something for the SAJEI training week, and Dr. G said, "This is not going public. This goes to the book. We'll just guide you how it should be formatted." So I just wanted to clarify that point. Yes. I didn't acknowledge the program director when I came here, so I'm doing it now, lest it be regarded as a career limiting move. So, Magambo, I also acknowledge you. Honorable Chief Justice Mandi Samaya, esteemed colleagues, members of the judiciary, distinguished guests, and friends of justice, I've had Mr. Bierwinkel in my Joburg chambers, which I miss dearly in the Corn Court. I'll leave it there. It is my profound honor to introduce a jurist whose life and career have redefined the very essence of judicial leadership in South Africa, the Honorable Chief Justice Mandi Samaya. Today, as we celebrate the launch of this important publication by SAJEI, we also celebrate a leader whose journey embodies the transformative power of resilience, principle, and visionary courage. Chief Justice Maya is a woman of firsts. She is a trailblazer who has shattered ceilings with quiet determination and unyielding brilliance. She was the youngest woman ever appointed to the bench in her early years, a distinction that foreshadowed her historic ascent. From this groundbreaking beginning, she rose to become the first woman president of the Supreme Court of Appeal, the first female Deputy Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa, and now the first woman to lead South Africa's judiciary as Chief Justice. Her career is not merely a personal triumph, but a beacon for every young woman, be it in the dusty backwoods of Inkomazi or in the wetlands of Limpopo or from where she comes from in the Eastern Cape. She is a beacon for every young woman who dares to dream beyond the confines of gender stereotypes. Hers is an illustrious career, a legacy of first and transformative leadership. Chief Justice Maya's career is a masterclass in judicial excellence and transformative leadership. After her early appointment as one of the youngest women judges, she quickly distinguished herself through her incisive legal mind and unwavering commitment to justice. I'm a witness to this, where I saw her give a very senior justice of the SCA marching orders when we were both acting at the time in the SCA. Her tenure at the Supreme Court of Appeal was marked by landmark judgments that advanced constitutional principles, particularly in areas of gender equality and access to justice. As president of the SCA, she revitalized the court's efficiency and collegiality, earning widespread respect for her ability to unite diverse judicial voices around a shared vision of fairness and integrity. Her elevation to Deputy Chief Justice in 2022 further cemented her reputation as a uniting force within the judiciary. In this role, she championed institutional reforms, including the modernization of court processes and the expansion of access to justice for marginalized communities. Her leadership during the transition to a fully independent judiciary, a historic milestone achieved under her stewardship, demonstrates her ability to navigate complex legal and political landscapes with grace and resolve. Notably, her advocacy for gender parity led to a significant increase in the appointment of women judges, ensuring that the bench better reflects the diversity of the nation it serves. As Chief Justice, she has embraced her role as the guardian of judicial independence with fervor. Her announcement of a groundbreaking sexual harassment policy recently on behalf of the judiciary is a testament to her commitment to creating a judiciary that is not only independent but also safe and inclusive. This policy, hailed as a watershed moment, underscores the judiciary's understanding that justice cannot thrive in an environment where dignity is compromised. Beyond policy, her jurisprudence continues to shape South Africa's legal landscape with judgments that balance precedent with progressive interpretations of the Constitution, ensuring that the law remains a living instrument for social change. Born in the rural village of Tsolo in 1964, Chief Justice Mandisa Muriel Lindelwa Maya's journey from the Eastern Cape to the pinnacle of South Africa's judiciary reads like an epic of determination and brilliance. This devoted wife and mother of three has not merely climbed the legal ladder, she has rebuilt it stronger and more inclusive for gender generations to come. Her academic arsenal, a BProc from the University of Transkei, LLB from the University of Natal, and NLM from America's prestigious Duke University, is complemented by no fewer than 4 honorary doctorates, each recognizing her transformative impact on jurisprudence and gender equality in the legal profession. Chief Justice Maya's jurisprudence is equally transformative, whether through judgments that advance gender equality, her mentorship of women judges, or her advocacy for judicial education. She has demonstrated that the law is not merely a tool for adjudication, but a vehicle for social change. Today's book launch is a testament to her vision, a vision where the judiciary is not only independent but inclusive, not only respected but representative. Like the pages of the volumes of this book, her career reminds us that the law must be both a mirror of society's aspirations and a compass guiding us toward a more just future. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to invite to the podium a pioneer, a protector, and my leader, the Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa.
Ndiyabulela Maphisa. I'm not sure that all that is accurate though, but we'll have that conversation later. Program Director, Deputy Chief Justice Mlambo. And I promise that your nostalgia for the High Court will soon evaporate. Just wait until next week passes, you'll forget all about them. Our Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mr. Neil, Member of Parliament, Justices of the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court of Appeal. Thank you. Judges President and Deputy Judges President, Chief Magistrate Tonjeni, representing the lower judiciary, all other esteemed members of the South African judiciary present, members of the SAJEI Council, retired Justice Plasket, where did the time go? Director General of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mr. Doc Mashabane, I've not seen him though. Our Acting Secretary General of the Office of the Chief Justice, Advocate Potgieter, Chief Executive Officer of the South African Judicial Education Institute, Dr. Khumulimo Mushweu, a good friend of ours, Mr. Robert Wabu Noha, who is one of the authors of the essays we're celebrating today, having co-authored that essay with our Dr. G. Representatives of the publisher Juta, led by an old friend, Mr. Pierre Wenkel. He's walked a long road with this judiciary. Mr. Pierre Wenkel and Ms. Mamabolo, who I'm told is one of those who were instrumental in seeing to it that we are here today with this beautiful book. Members of the legal fraternity and academia, distinguished guests, it's no longer morning, just a few minutes after noon. Good afternoon. It is a distinct honor to stand before you today as we mark a momentous occasion in the life of the South African judiciary, the unveiling of a remarkable collection of essays in celebration of a decade, well, more than a decade, of judicial education and excellence. This milestone provides us with an opportunity to acknowledge the stellar work of the South African Judicial Education Institute, the SAJEI as we fondly call it, whose unwavering commitment in the face of difficult odds, to which DM alluded earlier, has played a vital role in strengthening the independence, dignity, and effectiveness of our courts. The establishment of the SAJEI all those years ago in 2011 was a watershed moment for our judicial system. It embodied a vision long held by our predecessors, Chief Justices Corbett, Mohammed, Chaskalsin, and Langa, who understood that in addition to everything good that judicial officers bring to the task of case adjudication, a robust, independent judiciary also requires continuous, rigorous, and specialized judicial education. It is this education that equips judicial officers with the ability to navigate the complexities of a changing society, uphold constitutional values, and deliver justice with clarity. So the SAJEI was born of this conviction. Since its inception, it has served as a cornerstone of judicial growth, offering comprehensive programs that promote independence, impartiality, and effectiveness in our courts. Through its multifaceted approach, encompassing training, research, and outreach, the SAJEI has cultivated a culture of continuous improvement, ensuring that our judiciary does not only respond to legal challenges, but leads with wisdom, integrity, and foresight. Judicial education is not just an extension of legal training. It is the refinement of judicial wisdom, the cultivation of ethical fortitude, and the sharpening of skills necessary to navigate the ever evolving legal landscape to enhance the quality of justice delivery. Over the past 10 years, by plus minus 14 now, notwithstanding financial constraints, the SAJEI has risen to the challenges, delivering critical training for judges and magistrates, fostering scholarly discourse through its accredited journal, and placing South Africa at the forefront of judicial education by co-hosting the first International Judicial Training Conference on African soil. At the recent budget vote of the Office of the Chief Justice, speaker after speaker voiced their appreciation for the work that the SAJEI does and pledged to ensure that it receives the necessary financial support to achieve its ever-growing goals and the demands for development, training, and capacity building of the judiciary. And we hope that those promises will come true. Today, we celebrate these milestones, but we also acknowledge that the journey is far from over. Our dedication to ongoing judicial education must not waver. Through this continuous learning investment, we ensure that our courts remain cognizant of the evolving needs of the public they serve and create an efficient justice delivery system that inspires the citizens' trust and confidence in the working of our constitutional democracy. The judiciary remains the guardian of our constitutional democracy, and the SAJEI must continue to equip judicial officers with the tools to uphold justice, fairness, and the rule of law. This gathering is also an opportunity to reflect on the intellectual contributions of our judiciary through the launch of this exceptional book, a compilation of essays by some of South Africa's most eminent jurists. I also have it on good authority from a reliable source that it is the first of its kind in the African continent. For the SAJEI to have achieved such a feat in its first decade of existence is truly remarkable, and one hopes that this book will grow in its impact as the Institute evolves to keep up with the changes within the judiciary and society around it. The 7 essays in this book cover a broad spectrum of subjects, both on familiar traditional topics and in areas of evolving importance as well. Some chapters delve into the traditional subjects such as judicial independence, ethics, and well-being, while others address emerging challenges in the legal landscape such as climate change and cybercrime. Each chapter offers valuable insight and support for judges and will enhance their knowledge and practical application of the law in an ever-changing world. I would have liked to discuss each one of these illuminating essays, but for the sake of time, I will sample only 4 just to whet your appetite. And they cover judicial independence, the emerging field of cybercrime, judicial wellness, and climate justice. The first essay on judicial independence is penned by our colleague, Justice Stephen Majid, titled Separation of Power and Independence in the Judiciary. As he so aptly describes it, judicial independence is not a privilege, but a sacred duty. He cautions that in these challenging times, where constitutional democracies worldwide face unprecedented pressures, our courts must remain the unwavering guardians of the rule of law, and points out that the separation of powers is not merely a theoretical concept, but the living, breathing foundation that protects our citizens from tyranny and ensures that no single institution becomes omnipotent. Justice Majid's exposition of judicial independence and the separation of powers doctrine reminds us of the delicate balance that sustains our democracy, and the way he has approached the topic lends itself rather strategically to the project that is keeping both the judiciary and the executive awake these days as they put in place the process that will eventually see the South African judiciary become fully independent. As you would be aware, in recent weeks, the technical teams of the executive and the judiciary, supported by the Office of the Chief Justice, met following the first meeting of the 2 arms of government on 6 June 2025 that was chaired by President Ramaphosa. This meeting marked a historic milestone, emphasizing the importance of cooperation among the branches of government whilst maintaining a delicate balance and ensuring that they do not overstep the relevant boundaries and encroach into each other's terrain. This exercise highlights that it is possible under the principle of separation of powers for the arms of the state to support one another, as they must, to uphold the Constitution. This includes ensuring that each branch operates freely and effectively, especially in strengthening the judiciary through shared approaches to key issues. And the SAJEI's role in nurturing this independence through judicial education cannot be overstated, equipping judicial officers with both the technical skills and the philosophical grounding necessary to resist improper influences, thus serving as both a shield and sword for constitutional democracy. This essay, that is Justice Majid's essay, will certainly reinforce judicial officers' understanding of their critical role in upholding constitutional values and will help them navigate the pressures and challenges of an increasingly complex political environment. The second essay is in the sphere of cybercrime and AI challenges, written by Justice Glenn Hussein, simply titled Cybercrime. This essay shows just how rapidly the legal landscape is transforming, that the Cybercrimes Act of 2020 was a crucial step, but that as technology evolves at lightning speed, so too must our judicial responses. The fourth industrial revolution, once heralded as the future, has given way to even greater technological shifts, particularly the rise of artificial intelligence, which presents complex challenges. Issues such as algorithmic bias in predictive policing, to questions of liability when AI systems cause harm, for example, not just abstract concerns. They affect real people. The woman whose loan application is denied by an opaque algorithm, the worker displaced rather by automation, the activist targeted through digital surveillance. Our course must develop the expertise to navigate these digital complexities. Even my tongue is tripping over these alien words. Digital surveillance in law. Our course must develop the expertise to navigate these digital complexities whilst protecting fundamental rights and human dignity. There is an urgent need for the judiciary to accelerate its response to these emerging challenges, to balance the benefits of these developments against their potential harm. We must therefore, as judicial officers, remain vigilant and proactive in addressing the challenges posed by rapid technological advancement. Ultimately, our goal must be to ensure that the digital transformation in our justice system serves to strengthen the rule of law, protect and promote human rights, and safeguard the safety and well-being of all individuals, as Justice Hussein points out. There is then Judge President Kegni Musi's powerful essay on a most neglected yet most important aspect of our lives as judicial officers, judicial wellness. The essay, which is titled Judicial Stress and Well-Being, deserves particular reflection. It reminds us that we as judges are entrusted with society's most difficult decisions and are subject to stress, trauma, and the weight of constant scrutiny. The myth of the emotionless judge is not just false, it is dangerous. Judges do and, in fact, must engage with the human side of the law to understand the nuances of the circumstances of a case presented before them. A judge must be capable of empathy, insight, and emotional intelligence. Emotions, when balanced and controlled, allow judges to grasp the full weight of their decisions and deliver justice that is not only legally sound, but is also fair and compassionate. However, the emotional toll that comes from adjudication must not be underestimated. When a judge hears a multitude of rape cases, when they remove children from families, when they sentence young offenders to life imprisonment, the psychological strain is immense. We are reminded that wellness programs are not luxuries. They are essential to maintaining both the quality of justice and the mental health of those who deliver it. As we demand excellence from our judiciary, we must also provide the support systems that make such excellence sustainable. Without adequate support, the very empathy that makes judges human could erode, affecting both their personal well-being and the fairness of the justice they deliver, as Justice Musi points out. Finally, the contribution by our Dr. G, Dr. Moshweu, co-authored with Mr. Robert Wabunowa, titled Judicial Education and Environmental Law, an African Perspective, highlights an urgent and growing frontier in judicial training, one that demands specialized knowledge as we confront the challenges of climate justice and sustainable development. Just as all environmental law writings sharply indicate that climate change is the defining justice issue of our time, Dr. Mushweu and Mr. Wapunowa demonstrate that environmental cases require judges to understand complex scientific evidence while weighing profound moral questions, such as balancing economic development that creates jobs against environmental protection that preserves lives. And the cruel irony is that those who contribute the least to climate change, the poor and vulnerable, suffer its worst effects. There are other essays. We said there are 7, and I've sampled the 4, but these 2 deserve mention, even if just one-liners. Justice Clive Plasket's Administrative Law in the Courts, Judicial Review of the Harmonization of the Pathways to Review, which examines the evolution of judicial review systems pre and post 1994. Justice Dati Makgoka's judgment writing process and challenges. Mr. P.F. Venkel already said a bit about it, which provides insights into judgment writing as an essential skill for judges. And Deputy Judge President Sutherland's The Ethical Judge, an introduction to the ethics of the South African judiciary, which critiques the nature and philosophical foundation of judicial ethics and explores the relationship between the code of conduct and the responsibilities of judges. Colleagues, this book is a physical manifestation of collaboration, as Justice Dambuza explained to us earlier. Collaboration anchored in intentionality and consistent effort to foster and nurture a relationship between legal scholarship and judicial training, as exemplified by the partnership between the SAJEI and Juta and Company. Since the establishment of SAJEI's journal in 2017, Juta has played a pivotal role as the publisher, ensuring that the journal meets rigorous academic standards while promoting open access to legal research. The journal, which focuses on constitutional jurisprudence and judicial education, has been accredited by the Department of Higher Education and Training, no less, which evidences the high caliber of its peer-reviewed content. This collaboration extends beyond publication, with Juta providing a platform for judges, magistrates, and legal scholars to contribute to the discourse on transformative justice, aligning with the SAJEI's mission to enhance judicial excellence. And we are very grateful for that partnership, Mr. Pierre Venkel. The synergy between the SAJEI and Juta is further exemplified by their shared commitment to innovation and accessibility of legal education. Juta's expertise in digital legal solutions, such as AI-powered research platforms. He was trying very hard not to go on and on about AI. So this is a pet subject over there. AI-powered research platforms and global case law databases, which complement the SAJEI's training programs, ensuring that judicial officers have access to cutting-edge resources. This enduring partnership not only strengthens the rule of law, but also ensures that judicial education remains dynamic, inclusive, and responsive to the evolving needs of the judiciary and society at large. As we celebrate this beautiful book, marking the first decade or so of the SAJEI, we must also look ahead. The judiciary must remain adaptive, innovative, and unwavering in its commitment to delivering justice. This book is not just a celebration, it is a challenge to deepen our scholarship, to engage in rigorous debate, and to ensure that judicial education remains a dynamic force for progress. It will light the road ahead for a judiciary that continues to learn, lead, and serve. And to all of us here today, judges, magistrates, legal scholars, practitioners, let this book inspire you. Let it provoke thought, spark dialogue, reinforce the noble pursuit of justice, and spawn more essays of its ilk. And indeed, we are looking forward to a sequel in which Justice Mhlanhla, please, the DCJ's essay must be included. We extend our deepest gratitude to all who contributed to this project and to those who have supported the SAJEI over the years. our heartfelt gratitude to our colleagues who made this publication a reality. The managing editor, Justice Nambita Dambuza, Justice Stephen Majid, Deputy President and Acting Justice of the Constitutional Court, Musi, Justice Clive Plasket, Justice Dadi Makgoka, Justice Glenn Hussein, Deputy Judge President Ronald Sutherland, Dr. Khumulemo Mushoeu, and Mr. Robert Wapunowa. We are proud to have lived in your time. We claim this book as ours too. Thank you. To Dr. G and the SAJEI team, the judiciary is deeply grateful to you for your constant support. Continue your vital work. There is just one person I omitted to acknowledge earlier, and I was just reminded by the program now. It's Justice Kiwelo, who is a principal of the Institute of Judicial Administration at Lushoto in Tanzania. He or she has traveled all the way here to join us and grace our event today. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Enkosi kakhulu, Chief Justice. Having curated the music, I am going to ask our audio-visual team to give us a soundtrack to this leg stretch, during which time we are going to reset the stage and prepare for our second and last session. With those words, in exactly 60 seconds, that's 5 minutes, we will be back here. Enjoy your leg stretch.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes. Thank you very much for that lively music that was carefully curated to ensure that the energy levels do not dip, but we understand that this is not a sprint, it is a marathon. Chief Justice, you have been requested to please receive 2 copies of the book from our editor in chief. So, in order for us to open this session, we would like for you to please come and receive these. And we will take one for the office, one for home. When I was preparing for this session, I got the privilege of chatting with one of the colleagues from SAJEI, and her description of this particular project moved me so much that I wanted to share it with you, particularly because this is really not a true reflection of how far this organization has come from the time when it was just a desk and a phone, I am told. I hope the phone was working. But she also said to me that it is a book to remind the future leaders and the team, the future SAJEI Council, the future SAJEI team and staff, of the magnitude of what they carry, and those who will be in leadership, that they may understand the foundation on which they stand, so that they too may steward this organization forward. Ms. Ditsejo, thank you for that. Those were very profound to me. I now declare this session open with a discussion with the authors. 5 minutes each, please. I will need a timer. Who is my timer? All your phones have timers, so please do not make me. Thank you very much. Except for your own session, which, yes. So one of the things that I enjoy about these is that I get to choose. Therefore, my acting Secretary General is going to be my timer. And when we come to 1 minute, she will raise her finger so that we know. But I will open this to say thank you again, Justice Dambuza, as the managing editor of this remarkable collection, this book, this entry into history, but also a way to immortalize the work of our judges and telling our own stories. That can you take us back to the beginning, where it all started, the sleepless nights, but also how did the idea come about, and how was the team of these contributors from the beginning with this big 17, I am told, to where we are right now, and also what was intended and what was the goal behind this compilation of these essays to mark the more than a decade anniversary of SAJEI.
I think because I have set out already, I was talking how the project actually started and what it was aimed at. I will ask your permission not to repeat what I have
Please.
said. And as the Chief Justice mentioned, Justice Kiwelo from Tanzania, I was reminded of the other aspect of SAJEI that we haven't emphasized here, the bridges that SAJEI has built, particularly within the continent, and the high regard with which it is held. I think almost all, except Justice Sutherland, of the authors here and many more, have been with me and others in one or more of the jurisdiction within the continent, where SAJEI is specially invited to enhance certain proceedings, to ceremonies, or to participate in judicial education through the leadership of Dr. G. These relationships have been built and are becoming stronger by the day. Justice Majid, Justice Plasket, and Dr. G, of course, Justice Matopo, I'm sorry, and I think one more that I can't remember, and I were in Botswana for judicial education of new judges there, and that is an ongoing program in which we are involved with judges of Botswana. And Justice Fosen and Justice Avinash Kavanji and I were in Kenya for the environmental law big symposium. And so that is why we have incorporated in this project as well judges from outside the country. I know Justice Mlambo also has very, very strong relationship with judges within the continent and even abroad, elsewhere in the world. So those relationships, we have also sort of tried to bring them into the book as well, as they have enriched the SAJEI project. I think that's what I will add for now only. Thanks.
Thank you. Justice Majid, okay. As you make your way to the podium, your essay and your chapter really explores the relationship between the different arms of state. In your view, though, how does judicial independence practically shape the daily work of a judge?
Good morning, everybody, and Chief Justice, Deputy Minister, and all colleagues and distinguished guests. Before I answer that question, will you permit me? I mean, I think I've got 5 minutes. I'd like to exhaust all of them. And the CJ has said something about my essay already, so I would just like to say one or two things. And I speak as one who, as Apostle Paul has said in Timothy, I fought the good fight, I've run the race, I've kept the faith. But the DCJ's one will come, and it'll be all the better having simmered for a year or 5 or 6. Let me just say that on a personal level, as a judge for the last 6 years in the Apex Court, outside of the general jurisdiction cases, of which there are too many now, but tax, customs and excise, competition law, and so on, are very difficult cases. But for me, in the constitutional jurisdiction, the two types of cases, I'm generalizing, that I find the most challenging is this one that we're talking about now, is balancing the separation of powers, judicial independence, and guarding against judicial deference. I say that one, and the other one is where you have to balance competing fundamental rights in the Bill of Rights, where there's a constitutional challenge. Those two kinds of cases for me in the constitutional jurisdiction are the most challenging. But coming back to the question, judicial independence is of crucial importance, particularly as the Chief Justice has said that we find that constitutional democracy, constitutionalism is not only on the back foot, but increasingly in the retreat all across the globe as populism rises and as powerful leaders emerge. Constitutionalism is being pushed back. And so judicial independence is particularly important where judges, on the basis of separation of powers, are the ultimate guardians of the Constitution as the apex court, generally guardians of the Constitution, but as the apex court, the ultimate guardian. And so it permeates the entire work of a judicial officer to always remember that judicial independence lies at the heart of the rule of law. And some of the authors like Curie and Duval and others, as I've explored in the essay, talk about judicial independence and separation of powers as coexisting, but as core constitutionalism. In other words, it lies at the heart of upholding the rule of law, especially, as I say, where constitutionalism is not only on the back foot, but is constantly now retreating, being forced to retreat as populism rises. So I think it's absolutely essential. Having said that, I explore in the essay, as you would have seen, numerous jurisdictions, starting, of course, with our own like cases with judicial independence, with Justice Alliance, and other cases. And then I look at jurisdictions like India and others, but also closer to home, Zimbabwe, the case where there was the Kika case where there was a challenge against extending the age of retirement for judges beyond 70. And that, of course, there was another agenda behind that attempted extension. And also in Kenya, their constitution. But I end off with judicial deference, and it's a very, very tight, the tightest of tight ropes that I think that the judge has to tread, is to balance that judicial independence and separation of powers without undue deference to the executive. And in a judgment that I quote that I wrote, somebody said to me once, as I was growing up as a judge, said, it's important that you always quote your own judgment so that people are reminded of them, that you've been coming a long way. But in all seriousness, there's a judgment I wrote in 2017 in the SCA called Cathay Pacific about contempt of court proceedings in the High Court. And there I alluded to the extensive powers that judges wield, but we must wield so very, very responsibly. And when we wield those powers, we must guard against judicial deference, overdue deference, as Kate O'Regan called it, in one of her judgments. I think it was Bartow Star, that we must guard against undue judicial deference. I've answered the first question. Can I tell them what the second one is and answer in the interest of time? I'm very cognizant of time. The second question that I was asked to address was, what lessons can emerging judicial officers draw from your reflections on the balance between accountability and independence in judicial roles? Of course, I've spoken about judicial independence. Let me say something about accountability. Judges account through their judgments. And one of the things that that commentators and even civil society critics talk about continuously when we talk about judicial deference and our judgments is the very careful way in which we have allowed our jurisprudence as the apex court to evolve when it comes to the enforcement of socioeconomic rights. I mention those because that is the one area that affects our people the most: the right to housing, the right to education, and so forth. And commentators increasingly criticize us to say we are overly deferent to the executive. When you look at Grootboom and Subramoni and all those cases having evolved after 20, 30 years, when we talk about progressive realization, they say that the court is moving too slow. My answer to that is that you must have a look at the Constitution. When the Constitution talks about reasonable measures, and when the Constitution talks about progressive realization, it must be exactly that. It must be reasonable in the sense that you cannot expect of the executive with the noblest of intentions to do what they can't because they simply do not have the resources for whatever reason. And when you talk about progressive realization, it means exactly that. It's progressive. And as an apex court, I'm a firm believer that we must allow that progression to evolve without ever becoming stagnant. So the biggest challenge for me, independence and accountability, is to be able to account to our people out there and to say, what have you done to improve the lot of the Gogo in Guguletu and in Mitchell's Plain and in Orange Farm and so forth? Is to say that we as the judiciary have extensive powers. We have powers that if you travel elsewhere in the world, they're astounded by the powers that this Constitution grants us, especially in the Apex Court, with a Section 172 wide ambit of wide equitable powers, read with Section 38, which says you must give effective orders. But that doesn't mean that it's unconstrained. It means that we must be careful to stay in our lane when it comes to separation of powers. And remember that judicial independence is not unlimited, it's not unbounded. Thank you. I just want to conclude by saying I think I've still got a few seconds left if the clock in my brain doesn't deceive me. Yeah. I want to say that I'm very honored to be associated with SAJEI. I can remember in 2010 when we opened the new wing, CJ, of the SCA. Chief Justice Mogoeng came down, and he strongly pushed in private and public conversations that we must get SAJEI moving. And that's where we started training very early on. And SAJEI was established. And I was privileged to be one of the members of the earlier councils. And as the Deputy Minister has alluded, it hasn't been smooth sailing. It's been a hard battle. But look where we are today. We have persevered, and I want to give recognition to those who have led in the judiciary, but also in the officialdom. They say a person is not indispensable, but I can't think of anybody gets closer to that than Dr. G when she goes. And I want to acknowledge that. And my colleague Justice Dambuza, the editor-in-chief, who with Ms. Mamabola has shown me in Women's Month what women's power is when they push you to get done with your work. And one of my peer reviewers who are now have found out who she is through clever questioning. Look where we are today. This book is something to be immensely proud of. But also, as Justice Dambuza has said, the high esteem in which SAJEI is held all across the continent in particular, but even elsewhere in the world. I think we can pat ourselves on, without saying that the job is done. It must vigorize us and re-energize us for the work that lies ahead, because this is only the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Justice Majid. We have also decided as the executive of this particular project on Women's Month, 69 years since 1956, that we will ask the questions, both of them at once. To Justice Clive Plasket, good afternoon again. And having written the chapter on administrative law, and in the courts rather, and the judicial review and the harmonization of the pathways to review, yours unpacks the evolution from a single common law system of review to what you describe as a bifurcated system post-1994. For those who are less familiar, starting with myself, could you briefly explain to us how courts distinguish between the administrative and executive action and why that distinction matters so much in practice? The second part of your question, Justice Plasket, is that in your view, though, what are some of the key principles that should guide judicial officers, especially when they navigate the two pathways of judicial review? Considering the fact that PAJA for administrative action and the principle of legality for executive action. Thank you, Justice.
Thank you. What I intend to do is to say a few words about my involvement in judicial education, and particularly in presenting on administrative law over a fairly long period of time, and how that leads into the topic that I've chosen. During the course of that, I will answer the questions that were posed. I have presented on seminars on administrative law annually from 2012 right through to my retirement in 2022. And every year I've presented seminars to newly appointed judges and aspiring judges in two separate rounds of judicial education. I've also presented seminars to judges, experienced judges of long-standing, and to judges in Botswana that Nambita has referred to. And inevitably, I find myself having to explain why I should be talking about administrative law, because the context of judicial education that I've outlined has tended to be focused on the day-to-day skills of being a judge, managing a criminal trial, managing a civil trial, preparing for motion court practice, and so on. And my seminars have been the only instances of substantive law being dealt with. And it got me thinking, firstly, well, why? Why should administrative law be a standalone substantive subject in this environment? And secondly, having to, I think, explain to those in the seminars why, to sing for my supper, I suppose. And I think that there are two primary reasons why administrative law needs special treatment in this context. The first is its pervasive nature in modern societies such as ours. You would be hard-pressed to deal with a busy motion court role if you didn't have a fairly good understanding of administrative law and the review of administrative action. Or let me put it slightly broader, the review of public power. So that's the first reason why administrative law stands out a bit. You think of casino licenses being granted or refused, fishing quotas, social grants. The list goes on and on. Even certain exercises of power by private individuals can assume a public nature and involve administrative law review. That's the first reason. The second is that our administrative law is built on two things: the separation of powers and the rule of law, both fundamental principles of our constitutional order. And the separation of powers is, I think, the most important for present purposes. A judge needs to understand that when called upon to review administrative action, they are not being asked to offer an opinion on whether that administrative action is right or wrong, is sensible or stupid, or anything like that. They are being asked to decide on its legality, which is a different standard to the appeal standard of correctness. And there's a good reason for that. We are not administrators. Parliament doesn't want us to be administrators and hasn't given us the power to administer. That's the job of the administration. Our job is to simply ensure that when administrators exercise power, they do so in accordance with the legal authority that has been conferred on them. And that means understanding how one stays in one's own lane, as Steve was saying earlier. My contribution really comes from the fact that we've, since 94, got what I've called a bifurcated system of judicial review. And that comes from the fact that we entrenched a fundamental right to just administrative action in our Constitution. Prior to 1994, the common law did all the work, and it drew no distinction between various types of public power, executive power, administrative power, and any other type of public power for that matter. So the same grounds of review applied across the board. Of course, the intensity of review may have differed because some statutes gave much greater leeway, if you like, or discretion to the person empowered than others. But one system applied. Once we entrenched the right to just administrative action, of necessity, courts had to decide whether that fundamental right applied or in cases of review, in other words, whether they were dealing with administrative action as defined or some other species of public power, like executive action. So two separate pathways to review developed, one through the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act, which gives effect to the fundamental right to just administrative action, and one sourced in the principle of legality, which comes from the founding value of the rule of law. My thesis in my article, in my chapter, is that as a matter of principle and as a matter of legal policy, one can't have different standards applying to these two different pathways, because you can have the situation where in one case both pathways apply. We've had that in at least one case that I can think of, and it isn't a case of one trumping the other. Both apply. So you shouldn't be able to get different results depending on which pathway you take. So my thesis is that one has to harmonize the grounds of review and the procedure for review as much as possible. And to a large extent, that has happened. I suppose it's still important to draw the distinction between administrative action and executive action. And unfortunately, the question is quite a difficult one to answer because the two are on one spectrum. Essentially, what our courts have said is that the further you move from the bureaucratic, the simple implementation of legislation, decisions implementing legislation bureaucratically, to more and more policy considerations coming into play, the more you move past the administrative into the executive terrain. In order to draw that distinction, one has to start with the definition of administrative action in the Padja. And that defines administrative action as a decision of an administrative nature of various types. And then it contains exclusions, which include executive action. But there's still a broader scope of executive action that has to be taken into account apart from the specific exclusions. Harmonization takes away a lot of that problem, which takes up a great deal of our effort in dealing with judicial review cases. And I think it is also consistent with legal principle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice Plasket. The beauty with technology is that it has allowed us to connect even when physical connections are not possible. And in that case, or in our case today, we have Justice Tati Makgoka, who has written an essay on judgment writing, the process and challenges, joining us virtually. I am told that we have informed him that he is up next. And Justice Makgoka, I am standing here with greetings from your colleagues, from stakeholders, and everyone who was involved in this brilliant project, giving you a warm welcome. But on that note, really to dive into the two questions that relate to your particular chapter, where you describe judgments as an intellectual footprint. But then the question is, what elements do you believe make a judgment both legally sound and accessible to readers? The second part of that question, Justice, is that many aspiring judges struggle with the structure and clarity of their judgments. Therefore, what are some of those practical techniques you would recommend, maybe two or three, for improving judgment writing? Over to you, Justice Makgoka. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Program Director.
Thank you, Justice. You may continue.
Thank you. First, let me greet the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice, Dunstan. It will take some time to get used to this, Deputy Chief Justice. And Deputy Minister, my colleagues, all members of staff in SAJEI, and all the guests. We as judges, we exist to write judgments. Whatever best we can do, if we can't articulate our decisions clearly in a judgment, all will be in vain. Judgments serve an essential function in the administration of justice, in making the public understand how the law works and its impact on the lives of the ordinary people. For me, a legally sound judgment achieves four objectives. The first is to convey the judge's thoughts in simple, clear language, yet intellectually coherent and succinct. Second, it contains the critical analysis of the law and its application to the case at hand. Third, it contributes to the body of scholarship in a given field of the law. And fourth, it serves to teach. Our judgments are read by scholars, students across, and a first-year law student should be able to find the judgment understandable, while the law professor should be able to appreciate and engage with the intellectual honesty of the scholarship in the judgment. And that requires some level of discipline to achieve that balance. And a well-reasoned judgment assures the public that the outcome of a case was not arbitrary, but a crucible of thoughtful and reflective analysis. The former Chief Justice of Canada, Justice Brian Dixon, put it well. He said the identifying badge of a superior judgment is a focus on principle and reason. I come to the second part of your question, that some colleagues struggle with structure and clarity in judgment. My experience is that most aspiring judges and some of our experienced colleagues want the perfect start in the first draft. It doesn't have to be. My advice is just start writing. Put your thoughts down in your own words. Avoid frills and dramatic introductions. A simple statement of what the case is all about would be sufficient as an introduction. The first draft might be a medley of incoherent ideas, and in most instances, the final draft would be much shorter than the first. In the second and subsequent drafts, coherence and structure would start to take shape, and that's where you weed out unnecessary detail. The other problem I have identified is the lack of what I would call organic reasoning. Instead, one encounters over-reliance on authority. This is characterized by multiple quotations in a judgment. As I said in the chapter, long and multiple quotations might suggest a lack of application on the part of the judge and an absence of scholarship. A judgment should reflect a judge's capacity to listen, to think critically, to research, to write, to reflect, and revise. And these qualities would inform a well-reasoned judgment. Multiple quotations tell the reader what others think of the issue, but hardly what the views of the judge tasked with a particular case are. Earlier, I spoke about the judge's capacity for critical analysis of the law and its application. This is something that I have identified as a challenge in many of the judgments of the various divisions of the High Court. And Chief Justice, most worryingly, increasingly in some of the judgments of the Supreme Court of Appeal, you find lack of critical analysis. So these are just my thoughts, and I broaden up all these issues in the chapter that I've written, and I hope it will contribute somehow to some uniformity in our country as to how we approach judgments, because we have so many. You pick up a judgment, for example, from Eastern Cape. It is different to what the judges do in Limpopo, in Mpumalanga. And it says to me, we are yet to achieve some level of coherence in how we approach judgments. Obviously, the judgments of the high courts would differ from those of the two senior national courts, that is, the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court of Appeal. Because in most instances, those two senior courts would concentrate more on the law, but it is in the divisions of the High Court where you find all these challenges that I've identified. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Justice Makgoka. A lot has been said about the evolution of technology, and I imagine that with all its basket and long list of opportunities, serious challenges arise, and one of those, which is now becoming an age-old problem, is cybercrime. With the advancement of artificial intelligence, cybercrime seems to also have gotten its house in order, becoming more pervasive and belligerent. However, to talk in detail about this, as he has expertly done, excuse me, in the chapter, Justice Glenn Goosen presents a unique challenge as far as cybercrime is concerned for the legal system. But directly to you, Justice, from your perspective, what are some of the most important, really, legal considerations for judicial officers, excuse me, especially when they are handling cybercrime cases? The second part to your question, Justice, if you may, how can judicial education keep up with the rapid technological changes, advances, and developments, and the evolution, really, especially in preparing judicial officers to deal with the digital evidence as well as online offenses?
Thank you, Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, Deputy Minister, and colleagues. I'm going to be fairly brief. And the reason for that is that even as I stand here having written the chapter, I make absolutely no pretense at being an expert in the terrain at all. In fact, when I was initially asked right at the beginning to write a chapter on cybercrime, I thought, what on earth do you think? I mean, what do I know about cybercrime? But I think actually the editors had in mind an experiment. Would it be possible to give someone, a judge, a task to write something, and in the process be able to assess whether the judge might have learned something about the subject matter at the end of it? You'll have to read the chapter to find out whether the experiment worked or not. But earlier today, Mr. Beervankoel spoke about the challenges posed in publication of AI. And I think reference was also made to some of the challenges in relation to judgment writing and whether one can make use of AI and so on. And I think Justice Sutherland's questions around ethics and judicial ethics and so on deal with all of those questions. I think we should be cautious not to conflate too many of the concepts. The notion of cybercrime, as I try to explain in the chapter, and I've done so really in a discursive way. I've looked at the Act, I've gone through the Act, tried to unpack it to try and make those concepts a little bit more familiar, and hopefully the chapter will serve as a starting point, a resource for judges to work through the material. But there are so many elements to the development of technology that we should realize that we've actually dealt with some of these challenges in the past, and the law develops in that way. So, for example, when the first sort of telegrams were dispatched across from one part of a country to another, transactions could occur via the wire, as it were. And banking transfers ultimately could similarly take place through wired transactions, communications between banks. And if you reflect back historically, you will understand that the law caught up with it. It's wire fraud and other forms of dealing with criminal activity that sought to take advantage of new technologies. So the terrain of cybercrime, although it can be quite daunting because it uses a range of technologies difficult for us to understand, the process by which we deal with these new forms of crime, new forms of technology, is not something that is foreign to the law. What the Act captures, in fact, is a framework by which our analog understanding of certain criminal activity is presented to deal with the digital forms that it now takes. And I hope really that that's the biggest challenge. I would commend to all of you. I get no commission for this, I assure you. An article that appeared today, I think, or yesterday, in the Daily Maverick, and it deals with scamming. And something we all know about. You know, you go to an ATM and there might be some shady characters hanging around, and they use a little device and they scam the digital information and then empty your account when your back is turned. But a great deal of that criminal activity, huge amounts. I mean, if you read that article, you will be astounded by some of the statistics that are presented. And really, it has its foundation on the theft of personal information. All of our information is available digitally in some form or another, and it's vulnerable to being stolen and used, misused, and that really brings me to answering the question, the two questions that are posed, and they're really brief answers. It would be this. The important legal considerations, if you read the chapter, read the Act, you will see that you're having to challenge that judicial officers will need to be alive to a number of things. Jurisdiction. The crime is committed in cyberspace. The perpetrator may not even be in this country, but the victim is. And that's why the Act draws heavily on international law and on treaty obligations to try and create systems of cooperation. You'll have to consider very carefully questions around causation, around intention, who initiates who and what. And this is where AI comes in. I read an article in the New York Times 2 weeks ago, I think a week or so ago, and it spoke about cyber influencing as a cybersecurity question. Hackers based in China, for example, trying to influence electoral processes in the United States. I would have thought just giving the president perhaps a new aircraft might have been an easier way. But using AI, so this notion of a sort of faceless bit of code, a bot, not a person, that seeks to then engage with flesh and blood persons to persuade them because they believe they're acting, they're interacting with another human being to respond in a particular way. So that's a whole nother level of something that we would need to be concerned about. The other thing I would point to is evidence. And of course, we know this, the admissibility of evidence, how that data is retrieved and then presented in court. Fortunately, I think as judicial officers, most of the hard work will have been done in this sense, that the investigators investigating the crime will have prepared the material and packaged it for presentation by prosecutors. I think it was a point that the Deputy Minister in conversation earlier referred to work that the NPA is doing, looking at this. The final question, how can judicial education keep up with rapid technological changes? It can't. No, I don't mean it in in that sense. I think what we need to be doing is engaging in the sort of collaboration efforts and exercises that Justice Dambuza referred to earlier. Our Cybercrime Act is based on the Budapest Convention. It draws on what has been done in Europe, which was the preeminent international treaty. There is a process at the United Nations now of moving towards a cybercrime treaty. So I think one of the things that we can do from a Judicial Education Institute is see if we can reach out to those jurisdictions where perhaps they've walked along a path that we haven't walked, and they've done that for a bit longer. So it may be one way in which we can stay ahead of the criminals as best as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Justice Musi, yours focuses on a topic that lots of people do not even consider, and the Chief Justice has spoken quite a bit on that. And nonetheless, a very important one. And your two questions, especially because your chapter brings attention to the human side behind the robe. Why is wellness support so important for judicial officers, and how can it positively impact their work? The second part of your question, Justice Musi, is what are some of the most realistic and practical ways that judicial officers can manage stress while maintaining their professional responsibilities and demands, especially in a democracy such as ours, truly? Thank you.
Thank you, Bongi. Chief Justice, Deputy Minister, colleagues, distinguished guests. Before I answer the questions, I think I must join Justice Majid in extolling your virtues, Dr. G, for keeping the ship afloat for all the years, since you are now in the boarding lounge on your way out. Bongi, to the questions themselves. The whole issue of judicial wellness has always been a taboo subject. Many judges did not realize, or still do not realize, how important wellness is for this job. You would agree with me that the success of any justice system, the promotion and protection of the rule of law, depends on judicial officers functioning optimally. And you can't function optimally if your mind is not on par. The colleagues have spoken about various issues relating to the law. But when you have to decide some of those issues, that in itself is a traumatic, stressful experience. Judge Makgoka spoke about judgment writing. Most judges will tell you that sometimes that first paragraph of the judgment is the most difficult part. And it's a very stressful occasion when you have to compose a judgment. Recently, many jurisdictions have done empirical research on judicial wellness. Unfortunately, we still lag behind when it comes to that. That comes at the back of a survey that was done in 2021 by the Global Judicial Integrity Network. They sampled both judges in the common law system as well as the continental system, and they found that about 70% of the respondents believed that discussing mental health or stress and wellness remains a taboo subject for judges. 83% of them felt that the level of support available within the judiciary to deal with stress and wellness was totally insufficient. Now, in 2022, in Australia, a empirical study was done on judicial wellness. It's hailed as the first study of its kind. And there, after interviewing some of the judges, they found that most of the judges suffer one or other psychological affliction because there is no intervention at all. On dealing with the cases, the Chief Justice has, for example, highlighted the fact that sometimes we deal with matters that are very traumatic. You take, for an example, in the regional court where a magistrate would be in the sexual offences court and day in, day out deal with serious child rape matters. And there's just no form of debriefing whatsoever. Fortunately, we have somewhat moved in the right direction in that SAJEI has decided to infuse judicial wellness in all their training. So that helps. We have offered wellness intervention by psychiatrists and psychologists. Guess what? There were practically no takers from the judges because the belief is still that if you go for psychological intervention, you are not a good judge. Because to be a good judge, you must practically be superhuman. And it's time to debunk the myth and accept that as judges, we are human beings, to state the obvious. And if we are human beings, we suffer all the afflictions of other human beings, maybe even more because of our stressful situation. So the article is basically designed to bring awareness of the problem and to say to judges, well, it's not being weak to seek intervention. I know in Gauteng, there were a few judges that had morning yoga sessions as a way to deal with stress. Judges can form support groups. The leadership of the judges can also arrange retreats for judges just to debrief and discuss these issues. It does not have to be expensive interventions. It is not wayward interventions. Some of the interventions are like taking breathing exercises with colleagues, going for walks with colleagues, discussing your problem with colleagues. And lastly, because being a judicial officer is a very lonely place, and we are, as the Canadians say, at a place apart, there must be a realization that judicial stress, judicial well-being are there, and they are realities that must be dealt with by the judiciary. Thank you.
Yo. It's a shocker because we expect so much, and there's a demand. You must be upright, infallible. When in actual fact, you're also human beings. And I believe that discussion, yeah, it ties in quite well with the next topic and the next topic of the essay, really, because for you to be ethical, you have to be grounded in all these principles that Justice Musi has so sharply raised. And in your SAJEI, Deputy Judge President Roland Sutherland. There you are. I was so used to looking to my right. You speak of an introduction to the ethics of the South African judiciary, and in your discussion, you raise thoughtful points in that essay. But now the question is, in the first part of it really, how can the code of conduct, in your view, serve as a day-to-day guide for judicial decision-making? The second part is, in what ways do you believe can continued judicial education help to strengthen ethical awareness among judicial officers throughout their careers? Over to you, Justice. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, all other protocol observed. The question is best addressed by, first of all, looking into a broader social context. I think all reasonable South Africans will acknowledge that at this time our country faces an acute integrity deficit. It's very visible in certain places, less visible in others. But it is also manifest that the judiciary is not exempt from criticism from without or from criticism within. And we need to have a sober examination of ourselves as to whether or not we meet our own expectations and those of the country at large. I think that is important, particularly at this time when, as we have read with some enthusiasm in recent times, and to which the Chief Justice has alluded in this meeting, that we are about to embark on the most important leg of the development towards judicial institutional autonomy. Part of what we offer to the people of South Africa in making that demand, and part of why it is important for Parliament and the Executive to acknowledge that that must urgently be brought about, is that we are a bastion of ethical resilience. And indeed, how often is it not that we are the institution and the individuals called upon to hold others to account for their ethical failings? So there can be no doubt that the role of ethical judges is front and center, not only in the narrow world of the law, but in society more generally. What is regrettable is the degree of complacency with which we, the judiciary, have approached judicial ethics. We are not alone. Our universities, too, hardly deal with it. The professions do deal with it in a somewhat pedestrian way. But what we need to acknowledge is that for many, many years, legal ethical professional ethics and judicial ethics have been a Cinderella topic in academia, in the professions, and certainly here at home amongst judges. When one is asked what role the code of conduct will play, it is important to appreciate that the code of conduct is merely a tool. As long as it remains a parchment in your drawer, it will have no effect at all. And certainly in my experience, there are very few judges who can have a serious conversation with you about the content of the conduct of the code, never mind judicial ethics in its more broader context. One of the important points made in the article I've written is that the code is only part of our mantra of judicial ethics. And there is a vast range of issues which arise, which the code cannot cope with, and which I've called unpoliceable ethical norms. What we need is for the judges to be conscientized in all of these aspects. That will not happen by distributing a code. It will happen through deliberate, regular, and intensive seminars and training and writing on the subject of judicial ethics. SAJEI is particularly poised to take the lead in reversing what is a pathology of complacency. There are other institutions too upon which we can draw for resources. UCT's Governance and Rights Institute, Judges Matter, and some of the universities where aberrantly there is indeed a serious interest in ethics more broadly. I want to urge SAJEI, in conjunction particularly with policy options I hope that the Chief Justice will take in the Heads of Court conference, a conference which I hope shortly we shall see converted into a statutory judicial council, which can take proper charge of all the matters that really afflict the operations of the court and the way to lay forward a path for the judiciary to flourish. If we adopt the view that ethics is something to be learnt and needs to be understood and ingested by judges to overcome the moral challenges which are inherent in the application of the law, then we shall produce a body of ethical judges. And hopefully the chapter in the book will be part of a program to engender that degree of awareness and to encourage those that have the resources and indeed have the role to propagate an awareness of judicial ethics and produce for us an entire institutional array of individuals who we can be proud of as ethical judges.
Yes, you have. What a very momentary lapse. Behind these powerhouses are families. Families that have had to forgo time with their loved ones. And it is truly an honor to have one of them here, especially as I delve into the chapter on environmental law and judicial training in Africa. Ausletseho, welcome, and we are honored to have you here. Families sacrifice so much, and it is one topic that we don't really talk about, wellness. They also get affected by the things that affect you. And therefore, your presence here is acknowledged and honored. Dr. Mushweu and Mr. Robert Wabunoha spoke and wrote on this very important essay titled Environmental Law and Judicial Training in Africa. So the first part of our question, Dr. Mushweu, is that environmental law often requires both legal and scientific understanding. But then how can judicial education bridge that gap between law and science effectively? Over to you, Dr. G. Let me grab my program.
I'm gonna take it. Good afternoon. I thought by this time I would be saying good morning. This is a very emotive day for me, but it's okay. Chief Justice, Deputy Minister, Justices, Judges, Acting Secretary General, my friends from Juta, who are now my family, esteemed guests, and we've forgotten the friends, there are people online. We forgot about them. Sorry, I didn't inform the Chief Justice. SAJEI colleagues, this is a great day for us here. I wish this was the day for me to say bye-bye. But this bye-bye is never coming. I don't know, Chief Justice. But let me answer the question in three-pronged quickly, because I need to give my colleague Robert in Nairobi, he's online, more time to answer his question, how we can deal with the gap, or how do we bridge the gap? I'm of the view that is three-pronged. Interdisciplinary approach, training approach, using material that is easily understood, and institutional support from organizations. What do I mean by interdisciplinary training is that this subject of environmental justice is very scientific. And therefore, as the Judicial Education Institutes, we need to make sure that we improve scientific literacy of the judicial officers so that they can be able to understand and evaluate scientific evidence without over-reliance on experts. Because experts can give you another line that you don't think that's the right way. And also, our specialized courses should cover legal frameworks as well as scientific principles. Coming to material, on user-friendly material, we can only, and we have done that within the institute, develop materials for the judiciary with the judiciary. We cannot rely on experts to come and tell us what the judiciary needs to know. That we have steadfastly done in the last 11 years, and that has worked. The institutional support, I must say that there's a body that we started, Justice Chiti, thank you very much for the support. There's an African body that is called AJENEL, African Judicial Education Network on Environmental Law. It started in this room. The idea started here. When we invited, and Justice Dambuza was also there. When we invited members of Judicial Education Institute around in Africa, because I'm a firm believer that Africans should come with their own programs. Yes, we can learn from other countries, but when it comes to us here, we need to own our own, we own the knowledge, develop it. So we had about 13 heads of judicial institutions or heads of training committees in countries around the country, thanks to UNEP, where we discussed as to how do we integrate environmental law into judicial curricula. I made an example with myself that when I studied law, there was not even an elective on environmental law. And my worry sitting in that office has been, my poor judges and magistrates, when they get these issues, where do they start? And what is my role as the head of the institute? And hence it gave rise to that idea. And today, this AJENEL was launched in Mozambique. I'm not quite sure Justice Majid, I've always been, these are the judges that I can bully. So if there's anything, I just say, please, let's go, let's come. And Justice Khosen, we are embarking on a cybercrime program, so be ready to be bullied. So I'm saying that body, and remember I said my answer is three-pronged and institutional support. We did, and again through the support of UNEP, we established that body of AJENEL. 6 years with the leadership, and that Justice Dambuza was once the chairperson of that body. It was working very well, SAJEI being the secretariat. Now the leadership has moved to another country. We are really struggling. But I've committed to Justice Dambuza that I'm going to work hard, that we make sure that this body makes a difference like the way we intended it to be. I'm going to give over to my and my brother Robert to deal with the second question. Thank you.
Thank you, my sister, Dr. G, Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, and all the judges present. For me, I come from the field, I come not from the judiciary, but I come as a friend of the judiciary because of passion, because of the training, and because of the experience I have in environmental law and environment governance. First of all, I thank I thank South Africa for the 10 years of judicial education, and it's also my pleasure to be with you, honoring this occasion. In Africa, or the whole world, we have got one of the biggest challenges which are facing mankind. That is how to protect the planet. And the judiciary, of course, like everybody has said, you are part of the human race, and therefore a duty to contribute to that, on protecting the environment. I will concentrate more on what Africa, the biggest experiences we have in Africa. That is on how do we equip the judiciaries in on matters of environment or environmental law, or for them to adjudicate cases of environment. Cases of environment are rising very high globally and also in Africa. But over the 30 years of judicial education in environmental law in Africa, which began in 1996, the trend we have seen is that it is a very expensive venture to turn around people who never studied environment or environment law to become adjudicators and of course might be passionate on the issue. The experience showed that it is very expensive, and therefore we had to devise different means of ensuring that environment law is embedded in the judicial system. And that was how we came out with why don't we integrate environment law in judicial training institutions, like how my sister, Dr. G, has said. And so as the countries themselves take on the mantle of cost and also sustainability of the issue. And out of that, like what Dr. G has said, the formation of Virginal, and also development of resource materials. There is a judicial training handbook and the curriculum which can be adapted by different countries to suit their national needs. It has propagated throughout the whole continent. We have around 30 judicial training institutions which have in one way or another integrated environment law, and therefore reduced the cost. Here at the United Nations Environment Program, now we see less countries calling for support because there's ownership, there's national ownership, there's ownership by judiciaries to do that. And some of the countries like Nigeria have also used moot cases, indigenous knowledge, and the rest to equip the judges with that knowledge, with that hands-on experience in the adjudication of environment law. Against that, of the last 20 or so, 15, 10 years, we have seen a lot of adjudication. Judgments are available in Africa from the different jurisdictions, South Africa being one of the leaders in that aspect, in increasing the jurisprudence of environmental law, including that on climate change, waste management, water resources, air pollution, and the rest, and so on. And with that, we are seeing a good trajectory of cases being well adjudicated in. The other big experience we have seen is the cooperation, regional cooperation or sub-regional cooperation. Africa is a huge continent, and therefore the countries like in SADC coming together, East Africa and ECOWAS also, in terms of judiciaries, those sub-regional courts also have played a very, very critical role in advancing jurisprudence in environmental law. Those are the three key areas which we have seen, and we hope that in the next 10 years or so, most of the judiciaries, as the younger people come in, who have now studied the environment law, it becomes as easy to handle by any judge, like how you handle cases of criminal theft, cybercrime, and the rest and so on. We should aim to be at that level that you don't need to do a lot of training of judges because it will be embedded into their systems. We all are seeing the effects of climate change, of pollution on the earth, and therefore that passion, that human element of a judge will become even more stronger than it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to our editor-in-chief, Justice Dambuza. Looking ahead, what are the next steps following this historic launch and of the publication rather? But also, what impact do you hope the book will have on judicial education and legal leadership in South Africa and beyond? What would you like to see happen from here? Yes, please, you must come here. Thank you.
Thanks again, Bongi. I think the experience of today shows us one thing, that there is a lot of support for this kind of work. There is general excitement in the air that we feel. And I'm waiting for the Chief Justice to chart the path to the next chapter I have said to her. I have asked her, no, I can't say to her. But I hear whispers of chapter 2, both from my colleagues and from our partners. We still have to refine what chapter 2 or the next version will look like. We still want to remain relevant. But what we know is that there is a lot of ingenuity that comes from us as colleagues when we are not constrained by pleadings. It's a different type of experience which we must surely take forward. So watch the space. That is the best I can put it. Thank you very much, Mongi.
As you watch the space, please read the book. The Chief Justice has instructed us, and I will do my part and read it in depth. I think the discussions with the authors was quite enlightening. But to give us a congratulatory message, virtually joining us is Justice Dr. P. Gihuelo. He is the principal of the Institute of Judicial Administration in Lushoto, Tanzania. Over to you, Justice.
Yeah, thank you very much. Chief Justice, allow me to write on the protocol that you elaborated, explained during your remarks. Let me proceed to my congratulatory remarks. But before I do that, I would like to declare actually my interest in Chief Justice in that I have a number of brothers and sisters in South Africa from my other mothers. And this is Justice Dambuza, Chiki, Dr. G, Majid, but also Mamposi and many others. So whenever I speak to South Africans, I feel like I'm home. And I wish to express my sincere gratitude for the honor that has been bestowed on me, for inviting me actually to offer this word of congratulations to SAJEI in the South Africa Judiciary in particular. I understand that there are quite a number of people out there who could have done this, so I don't take for granted the honor that is being given to me. But I also wish to sincerely congratulate the Judicial of South Africa and the SAJEI in particular for commemorating 10 years of successful actually great success. It's not only 10 years or a decade, but I think it's a decade with a lot of success, as the previous speakers since in the morning have spoken. I am very much aware that SAJEI has grown leaps and bounds. And the occasion that we are holding today is a clear testimony of what SAJEI has been able to achieve over the past 10 years and above. And I'm also actually a witness to that, because I've we've traveled actually this journey with SAJEI for quite some time. I joined the Institute way back in 2016. And ever since we started it, there are a number of things that we've done together. And I understand, well, Dr. G, I think last year she was saying, well, she almost did farewell to me, saying she'll be leaving. And I heard that she's saying she's there to stay. I also pray that actually could stay, so that a lot of things will happen within SAJEI. We've done quite a lot together. The book launched today signifies a number of things that SAJEI have been able to do. And as the Chief Justice actually pointed out, that SAJEI has done remarkable, and I must say actually have been part of the networks that are existing in Africa of judicial training, including the one that AGENEL, which is on environmental law, but there are many others, including the one which is also led by Chiki, Justice Chiki, and others. Actually, SAJEI is a leader in as far as judicial training. Actually, putting us together in Africa is concerned. For the first time, these judicial training institutes were put together. It is the time that when we met in South Africa, and we started the initiative on environmental law. And ever since, we've done quite a lot. So I commend actually SAJEI for the milestone, the achievement that they've been able to achieve over the past 10 years of the existence. The book, I've not read the book yet, but of course, listening from the speakers, the chapters that have been covered, and the number of issues that they've been able to cover, I'm confident to say that this is a treasure trove. And I know most of us will benefit quite a lot from the book itself. And I'm looking forward to reading that book. As others have said, putting writings, having something in writing like the book that have been we are launching today, fosters critical thinking, because it is through this writing that we are able to evaluate and also refine our ideas. So I was very impressed actually listening to the various topics that have been covered, from artificial intelligence, cyber crimes, and a number of things, including also judgment writing. And I was very much actually impressed by the representative from Juta who said that, I think one of the speakers said that there's a number of ways the judiciary, well, in most cases, the judiciary communicates or speaks through judgments, but I quite agree that there are a number of ways that the judiciary can speak, including through the judicial training institute like SAJEI. I wish to congratulate all the contributors or the authors who are part and parcel of the process. I must say that at some point I was also actually approached by Dr. G, and probably I made that promise, which of course I couldn't fulfill. So, but I promise, because we are starting discussing about the next chapter or the next volume or the next move. So I'm looking forward to. I believe this is just the beginning of the long journey of what SAJEI will be doing in terms of publications. Judicial Training Institute, apart from training judicial officers, but also publication is part and parcel of disseminating actually what is being taught, but also it gives opportunity for those who cannot participate in the training to be able to read what is written by judicial officers. So this is a masterpiece. I know any judicial officer, not only in South Africa, but beyond South Africa, this is a masterpiece for, it's a must read. I think it's something that we need to, all of us to read. But also commend the managing editor, my own sister Dambuza, for working tirelessly. I know she has been beside you for quite some time, and of course she was our first chairperson of AGENEL when AGENEL started. For Dr. G, I'm short of words. I think the representative from Juta said all about Dr. G. This is the Dr. G I know about. She's very determined on whatever she wants to achieve. And I must say, my sister, keep up that spirit. There's a lot that others, of course, should be able to learn from you. What I just want to say, actually, I think I'm looking forward. I think this is the beginning of the long journey that SAJEI will be able to achieve in the next decade, so that quite a lot will be done. There was a point I remember we had a discussion. We were also writing something on judicial culture, and I think there were somehow Dr. G was saying, why can't we do together? So I'm actually encouraging that. We should keep on writing, because it's through writing that the future generation will be able to see what transpired, or they'll be able to learn quite a lot from us. Once again, I sincerely congratulate everyone who was behind this venture. I know a lot of them had sleepless nights. I know they must be reminded one point or the other. So I wish to congratulate. I know success do not come easily. There's a lot that goes behind the scene. So once again, Hector, thank you very much for inviting me. And I want to rest my case and thank you very much for listening. Over to you, the Director of Ceremony.
Thank you. Thank you, Justice. With our closing remarks, as the council member of SAJEI, please help me to welcome Justice Chikri from the Constitutional Court of the Republic.
Good day, colleagues. Chief Justice, good day. The Deputy Chief Justice has gone, and the Deputy Minister, but in their absence, I also greet them. Colleagues, a protocol has already been observed. A lot has been said, so I will focus on acknowledgements. As it's been said, I'm representing SAJEI Council. I'm a member. I'll start with the authors. Writing is a skill, but writing an article for a journal and writing a judgment are two different ball games. They need different approaches and different techniques. I congratulate you because you set aside time to contribute to the book. And I know that you had to set aside time for doing this, despite having to write your judgments, which are your core functions. Some of us selfishly make an excuse about the heavy caseloads and tight schedules, but we have not done that. And I thank you, colleagues, for that, for being selfless. I would also like to thank you, Dr. G. Yes, we don't want you to go, so don't blame the Chief Justice only. In the development and training curriculum council committee, we don't want you to leave. So you are excused, Chief Justice. And I would like to thank you and your whole team for your helpful projects, including this one. I know that SAJEI itself is one of our flagships in the Office of the Chief Justice. As Council, we are proud of you. Well done. Now to the sponsors, specifically Juta. I don't know why you like us, but you just like us. You want to stick with us, and you've done so. Through rough times and through easy times, and we appreciate you. Please don't leave us. Please stay with us and continue to support us, give us counseling, and give us advice. And we know that you also are available to train us when it is necessary. Please continue your good work. This project is huge. Yes, I've already acknowledged you, Chief Justice, but I'm just so thankful that you have actually found time in your busy schedule. We know that your schedule is insane, but you've seen it fit to come in person and address us. We thank you for that. We thank the Deputy Chief Justice as well, and we thank the Deputy Minister. We thank the NPA because the NPA, no matter what we think, they actually forcing us to realize that they are also part of us. So we thank you, Mr. Mtunzi Maga, for being all of us, part of us, and for being there for us all the time. I must thank the acting Secretary General. You know, what you do for us, you may not appreciate it. We just like the fact that you don't just content yourself with approving our budgets and looking at whether your programs will support us, our programs will support or not, but for being there with us when we have these projects. You must know that we always appreciate your input. We appreciate the support that you give. And we don't give this support alone. The whole OCJ team does that. So you must know that we appreciate you. I thought there's more to say. It seems it seems I've come to an end of my presentation. Thank you.
On that note, I would like to ask us to please indulge me in a couple of photo shoots. And the first one, of course, will be with our esteemed authors and the Chief Justice, please. Right here. Yes. Okay. To our guests and speakers online, virtually joining us, we appreciate you having made this time, for your contributions, for your kind and wise words in support of this project, and we hope it shall continue. Kuthiwa nakwabanye nenze njalo in our language. With having said that, I now release those guests and speakers online, and I ask that we use the next 5 minutes, hopefully 6.5 to 7, to do all the photo shoots so that I may release us to go and break bread. Thank you. Thank you, Justice. I appreciate it. So the first 3, we will start here, Mr. Seretse. And then the last one, of course, with everyone will be outside, just outside on the steps. This is a moment in history. We will capture every moment of it. Thank you. So we'll just move